We're gonna call the opening sequence there a failure. My computer decided to have an aneurysm, so here we are. We'll get away from that. How are you, everybody? Welcome to the LZ Sports Show. I am Mark Adam, right here in the LZ. This should be gone. I don't know what's going on with all my graphics today. It's fine. I'll figure it out. I probably won't, but I'll try anyway. Yeah, that's not working. So it is what it is. Whatever. My graphics aren't working. It's cool. I'm here. I want to let you know that you can follow us on all the social medias: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. We stream live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So go to all three, like all three, subscribe to all three. You get the notifications when we go live, that kind of thing. That would be wonderful. And we also have a chat box you can chat along in when you want to hang out. Oh, James Robinson already in the chat. Ahoy, ahoy, he says. Yeah, it wasn't your computer. The intro was, he says that intro looked like the Jets start last night. Yeah, so.
Ouch.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
The truth hurts.
I mean, yeah, rude, but true. I'll whatever. It is what it is. This is the world of live streaming from your basement. That's what it is. So I'm going to introduce you now to Keith McKnight, all the way from his home. He's socially distanced and all that. How are you doing today?
I'm good this morning. How are you boys doing?
I'm great. We are also joined by Neutral Zoner. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well.
I imagine they probably are. Who knows? But we are here. We're here, and yeah, it's the background of my office. Looks like just I'm in a white void. I swear I'm not. I got this whole thing going on. But maybe I'll switch my background up in a bit. Neutral Zoner, how's things in Vancouver?
Things are good. It's looking like it's going to be a sunny day. Birds are chirping, and yeah.
Yeah,
Life
doing this from the back deck,
mostly good. Yes.
Excellent. All right, so let's just get to business, shall we? Let's look at the stats of the game last night so we can get that sadness out of the way. 5-3 for the bad guys, basically. 33 shots to 33 for the Habs, so they beat us there as well. I mean, it was pretty even, to be honest. 52% for the... I think that is backwards, actually. I think the 52% was for the Habs. 0 for 3 on the power play is correct for the Habs, unfortunately. 1 for 4 for... Or sorry. Oh, my God. I can't talk today, guys. It's been so long since we've done one of these shows, I forgot how to do this because they had such a long rest, which we're going to get into as well. 21 penalty minutes for the Habs, though.
No, you just got that flipped around.
Oh, my God. I keep saying the wrong things. My God. All right, you take it over. Take it from me, please.
I'm pretty sure the Jets had 21 penalty minutes.
They sure did.
The Canadiens had 6. The bulk of those 21 minutes was accumulated by one player, which I'm sure will be discussed later in the day. But yeah, it was like you said, faceoffs, yep, 27-25 for Montreal. The hits were 42-24 in favor of Winnipeg. And yeah, shots on goal were 33-30, which was basically a saw-off there.
See, and what would I do without you here? So let's look at the score sheet. I'm not even going to talk. You handle this.
Yeah, please do.
Well, I can't see the graphic, so
oh no,
maybe we'll. I'm just going off of what I'm reading off the web.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, so the graphic here, the score sheet, 5-3 again. The Jets now 4-1 in the playoffs, which is pretty good considering we're in the second round already. That one loss though, that was not a good looking loss, I gotta say. Connor, Lowry, Forbort, the goal scorers for the Jets. A lot of goal, like they spread out the goal scoring for the Habs. Stahl, Evans, Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, and Gallagher all potting, which didn't leave a lot of room for all the assists, of which there were many. So aside from Stahl's one you see on the sheet there. Caulfield also getting in on the assist game. Toffoli, Perry, Petrie had 2, and Gustafson had 1. Edmondson had 2. It was a veritable point for the Habs. Teams that didn't make the list for our boys is limited to Morrissey and Pionk, both having assists that didn't show up on that graphic because of space reasons. Hellebuyck, 28 for 32 with an .875 save percentage last night. Price, 27 for 30 for a .900 save percentage last night, which leaves the playoff picture looking like this. Montreal up 1-0 on Winnipeg. The Islanders and Boston splitting games. Carolina down 2-0 to Tampa Bay, which is rough when you give away your 2 games at home. You're the first seed coming into this. Rough times in Carolina right now. They're going to be playing the recovery game, I believe, starting this evening. Boston and New York will try for the tiebreaker this evening. Colorado edging out Vegas last night in overtime, which was a much better showing from Vegas than that previous debacle, I'm going to call it. The Avalanche are going to run away with this series if Vegas is not careful. That said, those games now, as of tomorrow night, start back in Vegas, so they go back there for 2. Hopefully they can use home ice advantage to their advantage. So finally, we're able to show the graphic where all of the teams have advanced from the first round. It was really odd there where, we had this is, I think, the first year where the first round of the playoffs was started before the season was over, and the second round of the playoffs started while the first round was still going. It's been a weird year, everybody. So bear with the NHL.
That is still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. But that all that said, going to the chat real quick, Kerry Bulkowski joining us. He said, oh, he was the one that said that intro looked like the Jets start last night. Oh, thanks. I'm getting what's the word? Trolled. That's the word I was looking for. Simon Leung in the chat says, actually, it felt like we were in it and could come back, but that fluky delay of game was unfortunate. Yeah, when Morrissey batted that puck out of the air above his waist, how is that delay a game? How is that delay a game? There's got to be some common sense. I get the rule is written in such a way that it doesn't allow for that, but come on. Really? Honestly? That's what you're going to call? I don't like it. Let's go through player of the game. Let's start with you, Mr. McKnight. Go ahead.
Player of the game, I'm going to have to go with probably our goaltender.
And you have reasons, I'm assuming?
No, I'm totally kidding. I just said that to wake everybody up and to make sure that everything was okay. No, Kyle Connor is definitely my player of the game yesterday. He is always very invested into the game, no matter what type of mood is going on with the team. If they're losing, if they're down, he's always just fully invested. His feet are never. He's kind of like, I'll compare him to Connor McDavid. His feet are always on the go. He's always moving. So yesterday it was nice to see him not give up on that.
Zoner.
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I'll go with Josh Morrissey, even though he was indicted for a few Habs goals. But I did see him moving his feet, moving the puck confidently, things that we saw during the regular season he wasn't doing, and he's maintained that higher level of play that he picked up in the Edmonton series. So he's still out there trying. But somebody mentioned the hockey's not a perfect game. He didn't have the perfect game, but he did well.
Yeah. And for me, I'm going to have to go with Neil Pionk. I thought he had a pretty solid game. I thought he did all the things right that he could do. I don't think he had any major meltdowns. And in a game like last night where there wasn't really a lot of momentum, they couldn't get a lot going, the Jets. So that was a little tough to watch, and Pionk he was the guy that when things weren't going right, he was the dependable guy that sort of saved them. He was in position, he was making smart plays. I thought he was sort of a standout. So that was sort of my take on that. To the chat, it was probably Marner's fault. Yeah, Marner's fault.
It's probably Marner's
says James
fault.
Robinson in the chat. That's a good one. I like that.
The Maple Leafs, they said they will not part with him.
Well, why would they? He's their
No,
best
that's what I
player.
mean. Yeah, I saw the headline. Yeah, I saw that on the NHL Online. I'm like, why is it even a thing? Like, that shouldn't even be a question.
Yeah, that wasn't fair. I don't think. So
It'll be brought up every offseason until they win a cup.
Literally.
yeah, pretty much exactly. Yeah, but we got our little ticker here. I don't know if you see this. I might have to turn it off. I think it's slowing stuff down for us, so I might have to turn off these graphics until I figure out a better way to make them work. But we have these tickers. Right now we're talking about Jets Player of the Night. So there it is. It's on the screen. You can actually see that. It's kind of neat, I think. But that's obviously a personal opinion. But how do we want to handle this? Do we want to save the one thing we know we're all going to want to rant about to the end, or do you want to start with it?
Oh, that's a tough one. Let's build up some momentum. It's very hard. I'll change the subject quickly. I was looking at. I'll just spit it out. It's very hard for the Lord Stanley Cup not to come through Manitoba, no matter who wins it. That's one thing I've noticed, because there's so many Manitobans in the National Hockey League.
There's a couple. Yeah.
There's one who played a really good game last night, Edmondson.
Yeah.
Isn't he from Brandon? Yeah, he
That's
did a really
right.
good
Yeah.
game.
And White Cloud played well for the Knights. So
I don't want to have the Jets prove me wrong in the first round. I wouldn't. I felt that the Vegas Golden Knights were going to walk through. Sorry, not I mean the Colorado Avalanche were going to walk through the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, just seeing that on paper, why do I feel that? And look, that's exactly what's happening right now. I don't think this series is going to make it to 5 games, and I'll be surprised if it goes to that's a maximum amount.
Really? But
So
they're
you're
going back to Vegas.
No, Colorado is just. I feel like they're just really just. Oh my god, because I feel that if they don't win it, I was telling Mark this on the phone the other day, that if they don't win it this year, Nathan McKinnon is going to transform into the Kobe Bryant of hockey, and he's going to come back a man possessed next year.
I mean, he's a man possessed this year. Have you seen him?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, he's just going to be so mad if they don't, and I'm very scared if they don't win it this year.
What's scary about Colorado is, as good as McKinnon is, everyone draws comparisons to Connor McDavid, this, that, and the other thing. But I think the Colorado Avalanche have a lot more very talented players on their team than the Edmonton Oilers. I think when you look at the rest of their squad, the talent that extends out beyond McKinnon is better as a pool. Rough times.
Somebody had mentioned that the Avalanche are what the Oilers aspire to be, right?
Every year, right? They're rebuilding every year.
Well, the Oilers also said this year that the Winnipeg Jets are a team that they would like to emulate in their style. So that was kind of a neat thing to hear. And Kerry Bukowski in the chat saying McKinnon already seems possessed, and the Avs to him are the most complete team in the league.
Wow. Oh,
and I agree.
You do.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that Trevor Lewis and Tyler Toffoli were teammates with both Lord Stanley Cup runs with LA, and now they're playing against each other. I'm like, look how that's working out.
Yeah. So
worked out good for Toffoli last night.
Oh, very good. I've been a big fan of him since ever since I started following LA, and I have him on my Winnipeg Jets team in my NHL season.
That's okay. Just to play in your NHL 14.
Yes, sir. 14. It's the only game I hope what I'm about to say goes viral, and I want everyone to know the only reason why I don't play a new game, it's because it is the last game that Paul Biznasty Bissonnette is in it, and he is the best.
So have you rigged up the whole league so that he became a 50-goal scorer? Is that what's going on?
Oh, you can't believe it. Has played 10 games because I played 20-minute periods. Guy already has like 80 points.
You are
All right.
are an odd duck, sir. Yeah, I
Oh,
don't even know how to answer things you say anymore.
uh, Mark, you have to wrestle control this show again.
How?
Ow.
Who cares? Okay.
Uh,
Let's talk about the actual game. Giveaways and general sloppiness cost the Jets, in my opinion. Do you agree? Let's start with Zoner this time. Go ahead, sir.
oh, definitely agree. They looked very discombobulated, out of sorts, out of sync. A lot of terms for it, but a lot of passes that went behind players or into people's skates or just beyond their reach. They had a lot of trouble breaking out of their own zone, which is not a good sign. And like watching replays again and watching parts of the game again last night, I was like, it's hard to count number of times that they actually strung together 3 passes consecutively.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't really happen all that often. Like, they 2 passes and then they lose it. Right. And that's not a recipe for them to win.
It was a little on the sloppy side, I think, personally.
Yeah.
But, here we are.
I think some of that you can credit to Montreal's positioning. They were very disciplined last night. They always had 1 or 2 guys in the vicinity, making sure that nobody had a clean look. So congrats to them for executing their game plan. But the Jets need to execute much better and with better speed too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The Jets looked logy last night. They looked like they just couldn't get their feet underneath them. Thoughts on that? Do you have anything to add there, Mr. McKnight, on the sloppiness, the giveaways, and that costing the Jets?
Yeah, very sloppy. And it's just like, I don't even want to be negative, but I'm very surprised, especially with the amount of rest that they had. And you kind of thought that sometimes that could go either way. And it clearly did. And hopefully the Jets can, like you said, get their feet under them, because they were, you said this line before, they were chasing the game. And I kind of felt like that's how the Jets were last night. And frustration about the topic we all want to touch base on right now that we're going to wait about. It's like I felt like frustration had a lot to do with it.
And speaking of that rest, was it too long? James Robinson in the chat asking, why are the Jets so bad after coming off a rest? It's been a thing with them for a while now, and I do not understand it. None of us do, James. None of us do. So let's go throw it to Zoner again, talking about the Jets' rest. Do you think the rest should have helped them, or do you think it really rusted them up? Where do you sit on that?
Well, it should help them, right? You figure if you got injuries, like how is 9 days off not a good thing if you're hurt, right? And they just played a 4-game series against the Oilers with the triple overtime. You need rest after triple overtime, but I don't know what it is. James is right in that it's been plaguing them for years, in that they come back from a grueling road trip. They do great in the road trip. First game back home, they stink, right? They always play like a totally different team. And it's been like that for years. I'm not sure what it is. That's one of those things you have to be inside the locker room maybe to know. I don't quite get it. They just don't like doing things the easy way, right?
Yeah, I don't know what their deal is. They never do it the easy way.
Like even on that huge winning streak in March, they always give up the first goal, right? I mean, not always, but the vast majority of the time they're giving up the first goal, losing the face-off circle.
Yeah.
They're getting outshot, but they win.
Yeah. I don't understand what is happening with them, But do you think it was too much of a rest, McKnight?
I kind of thinking of that now too. Maybe it was. Maybe the Jets just aren't one of those teams that they need that much rest. I feel like head coach Paul Maurice he's a pretty serious coach. He's a pretty serious guy, and he knows what to do with these guys. And I don't know. Maybe they just had too much rest. Maybe they didn't practice as much as I thought they were going to be. Right? Maybe coach literally gave them some time off. So I'm not too sure if it doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it didn't work out well for the Jets. Some teams it clearly does well, because look at the way Colorado came out.
Yeah. Well,
like it didn't bother them.
No, it did not. Yeah. No. But I want to point out Rust happens. Have you seen
Yeah,
our
it
stream
does.
today?
sure.
I've been rusty in my button pushing skills because we haven't done this in over a week. And when you're like, and I've been messing with the program for a week. We're in a brand new software this week from the last time we did a show. Like I've redone a lot of the graphics and things, and so those new graphics are failing. Currently, I'm using the old graphics. So when you see the names pop up on the box like that, that's the old graphics that which is fine. We have them as a backup, but every time I look at my computer funny, it seems to slow down today, and that's not normally the case. So maybe this new software isn't working out the way I hoped. I'm done changing. I don't want to change things anymore. I just don't.
Hey, we gotta try a couple things out, and we'll find out what works.
That's bizarre because we tested it last night, right? With Jonah.
Yeah, no happy fun time before a big game used to be a thing. It should maybe be made a thing again, says James Robinson in the chat. So
just lock them up in a hotel room for the whole homestand.
Yeah.
Make them feel like they're on the road.
Honestly, for the rest of the playoffs, they should feel like they're on the road. They're in a bubble anyway. They shouldn't be seeing their families and saying hello and kissing their kids. Come on, guys, play the game. I mean, maybe that might be a bit extreme, but I really think something has to give here because these guys get paid bazillions of dollars. The opportunity to win the Stanley Cup doesn't come around every day. So they really have to buckle down.
Yes.
And losing to a team like Montreal will have a very different effect on how the media and the fans react to them. Right? Had they just lost to Edmonton, McDrysdale, what are you going to do? Right? Had they lost to Toronto, Marner and Matthews, what are you going to do? Right? But there's nobody on this Montreal team that you can point out that is a superstar that should be overwhelming the Jets. There's no excuse. Sorry, Zoner, go ahead. You're about to say something.
No, that's exactly the point, is that this is the first time in a long while that they have not been the underdog. So again, it's like they just can't handle prosperity.
Yeah,
right?
If their back isn't against the wall, right?
You're favored. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But, I mean, the silver lining is it's only one game. It's game one. Maybe this is the wake-up call they needed. And they weren't going to sweep their way through the playoffs, right? Every team loses a game once in a while, even unless you're the Avalanche.
Yeah, the Avalanche this year look unbeatable.
Let's talk about the. Oh, sorry.
Just 1 second, then we'll get into whatever it was you said. So put a pin in your brain.
Yeah,
but
my fault.
Speaking of the Avalanche, when Nathan MacKinnon scored that goal in that first game where he made everyone look like they were standing still, I was just like, this kid. Like, he is as good as McDavid. Period.
Yeah, he really is.
Period.
And hey, man, he went to Shattuck St. Mary, a big hockey school in Minnesota. So they produced the best. They were ranked. Well, I don't know. I mean, whoever the one who made the rankings, they were ranked out of this video that I saw, the top 20 hockey boarding schools in the States, and they ranked number one. And Jonathan Toews went there, Sidney Crosby went there, Nathan MacKinnon also went there, and just like tore up the league over there as well. So I was just like, oh my God, like this kid is for real. Like, and his contract is only $5 million. Like, the Colorado Avalanche are very lucky that they got him for that much, because when that contract is over, if his agent doesn't work out a max deal for him and they don't give it to him, I'd be very surprised if he stays in Colorado, because he's worthy of a max deal.
Okay. I also just want to point out real quick that Nathan MacKinnon also went through the Halifax Moosehead system.
Yes, I love how much you made me a fan of that team. Nikolai Ehlers, Timo Meier, Nico Hischier. And if you didn't tell me about them, I probably wouldn't know anything about their careers.
Jonathan Drouin.
That's another one. Yes.
Right. So the top three of the draft one year, two of them were Mooseheads.
You can't forget him. Sorry to cut you off.
Zach Fucale, Jean-Sebastien Giguère, Alex Tanguay, Jody Shelley. There's a huge list of A-list NHLers that all came through Halifax, and I got to watch them while,
As a season ticket holder, I want everyone watching, listening, and in the comments below and in the chat box, Mark was a season ticket holder. That's an accomplishment.
Well, listen, the Mooseheads, that was good hockey, buddy. Because they were competitive every year I had tickets. They had a couple of rough years when I was young. Because that franchise started in what, 90? Was it 92 or 94? I forget. But anyway, I started watching them. I think it was 94. Yes, it was. Yeah. So anyway, but I started watching them then, and I went to go see Alexander Daigle play when he was supposed to be this big, upcoming superstar, and then he flopped in the. And there were a lot of huge players that I got to watch as a junior, right? When Sidney Crosby used to come back to town because he's from there, but he was playing for Rimouski, and he used to come to town all the time.
So they would play their games.
Yeah, so I got to see Sidney Crosby play in the major junior level, and you knew he was going to be special then. And it turned out, yeah, he absolutely was. And then you got guys like Nathan McKinnon, who special player. Absolutely has success. Jonathan Drouin was a special player that hasn't found his place in the NHL yet. Really, he's a contributing player. He's a good third liner. I think he was being played higher up there because the Montreal Canadiens didn't have that depth and needed him at that point. But I don't know. He just doesn't have that step. He doesn't have that drive. And currently he's out on personal leave. So he plays for the Montreal Canadiens. He's not even playing during these playoffs. He's out on a personal leave of absence. I have no idea what the reason is. I'm not, when you say personal, I just tend to be the kind of person that leaves it alone. I know there's a lot of media people digging for what's your personal reason? Well, it's personal. I know, but what is it? Shut up, leave him alone. But that's my opinion. But anyway. We're
if he doesn't want to talk about it, leave it alone.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're going down the Halifax rabbit hole again. I keep doing that to this show.
That's okay. I love how you can talk about because it's the last thing I'll touch on it, and I don't think a lot of people know about this. I was in this class, this course there, and this guy says, "Oh yeah, I just took my lunch and I went to get a Halifax Donair," and I was like, "Wait, I don't even really know what Donair is. Now you're trying to tell me there's something that's Halifax Donair?" I was just rocked out by it, and then you told me about it, and you're like, Halifax Donair is the real Donair, Narv.
It is.
Keith.
It is. But anyway, so that's enough Halifax talk for a second. You're going to like this segue. Speaking of Halifax Mooseheads, Ehlers was kind of a non-factor last night.
He was very quiet, very quiet. But you know what? Oh, we'll talk about that part later. But anyways, yes, he was he was a non-factor, but if there was an award to give out somebody for sportsmanlike conduct last night, I definitely give it to him for sure. And we'll touch base. Yeah, exactly.
We'll get to that.
Touch
yes.
base on that.
But I know exactly what you're talking about, and 100% we're going to get there.
We might as well go there now because I think it's just distracting.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So,
when he protected everybody from not collapsing oh my God, the only thing I could think about was the Todd Bertuzzi and Steve Morganson. And I was like, okay, look, forget it. Oh my God, somebody could land on this guy. And Nikolai Ehlers went out of his way to make sure that did not happen. He was fully invested in the fact of, okay, oh my God, I gotta be with my teammates here. But this guy is completely out, and we just can't oh my God, talk about giving somebody air, talk about giving somebody space. I almost feel like this guy potentially saved this man's life last night.
Honestly, I agree. And I also, as much as everybody's throwing all the blame and everything on Scheifele, and we're going to talk about that too, that side of it. But at the end, the reason he didn't fight back when that guy put him in a headlock, he put his arm out on the glass, and he just sort of leaned back into it. He didn't want people pushing through to get on top. Sorry, I backed away from the microphone there. Yeah. But the Canadians were all worried about retribution. They weren't they didn't immediately jump to let's help. You know?
Yes, and Nick did.
And Nikolai Ehlers protected him. Scheifele protected him. And you know what I mean? Noted tough guy Nikolai Ehlers. But when he put his arms out and he's just screaming over his shoulder, man, I was so proud of that kid right there. I like that. That is a heads up, smart, sportsman-like player. And yeah, the sportsmanship award goes to Ehlers last night. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, it was very scary, and I know that everybody on the show thinks that Keith is anti-Scheifele, which it has nothing to do with last night, but I have been anti-Scheifele since 2013. So this is going way
I thought I had
back.
you converted at some point this year.
Yes, I did too. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to turn the tide with this young man. But then even before this hit, but then the hit last night, I was like, man, oh my gosh, I don't even know. I'll let you guys take it from there. I'll let you both. Zoner, what do you have to say about that hit last night? I know nothing about the game other than, how to go and show up to play beer league hockey, and then seeing playoffs. I remember in one of our beer league games, one guy had a bloody face because it got so intense. Somebody, you know what I mean? And I'm like, this is how it is in the playoffs, no matter what level you play. But I don't know. The only word I have to say about last night, and this is just me, and this is, forget about my dislike for Mark Scheifele being just the guy that I think is tradable. This is no hatred and this and that towards the guy, but last night I felt that was a very gutless hit. Am I wrong for that?
Gutless hit. Ooh, that's a tough one. And Mark and I were talking about it last night when we were testing out the technology.
Yeah.
Watching it live,
Yeah.
right? And we were both kind of silent for a while. And first of all, I was like, holy crap, what a hit that was.
Yeah.
And but then when you see him motionless on the ice,
yes,
it kind of churns your stomach, your heart, whatever. It just brings back every bad hit you've ever seen in your life, where someone's lying on the ice bleeding or unconscious, and you're just desperately hoping that they're okay. When I first saw it, defining it, is that dirty? Is it clean? At first I was pretty sure it's clean. Number one, in terms of his elbows were down, his shoulder, Scheifele's shoulder was what made contact with Evans. But it was really just the sheer speed that all happened, and the fact that Evans was totally committed to, and when you're committed, meaning he was reaching around to get that empty net goal, right? And he was in a vulnerable position. His arm was out, his head was down. He wasn't even looking, right, at who was going to come to get him at that point. He was just reaching as far as he could with all his might. And that's when you put yourself in a vulnerable position. So just from that one standpoint, vulnerable position, there have been suspensions for that, right? Where people who are usually against the boards, not looking, their back is to someone who's just about to pile them into the boards, and they get hurt. And there have been penalties, there have been suspensions for that. So I can see that being the reasoning behind whatever happens to Scheifele in the coming hours. There's a hearing apparently this afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, and yet at the same time, we've seen hits in similar situations where you see the guy sacrificing his body to get the puck out of the zone, or to make a play, to spring a guy free, and you say, oh, he took the hit to make the pass. And in this case, he took the hit to score a goal. But man, what a hit!
It was when you say the stretch rate, really stomach turn, heart drop. Mark Zoner, I don't even know. There's that's what I mean. I'm not I'm kind of glad that I was anti-Christ, sorry, before that, so everybody would be okay, so my dislike for Mark Scheifele has nothing to do with that hit. But that hit, I just don't even Mark. You told me playoff hockey is completely different, but the Jets kind of knew they were already about to lose that game, and I don't know. I'm almost I don't even know. You said, my stomach's turning almost. I actually feel butterflies in my stomach because I'm just Man, that guy was taken out on a stretcher.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he was completely motionless, and I was just like, oh my God. Like, oh my, this is not good.
And I found out
This
yesterday
is
that
not good.
one of my buddies texted me last night saying it was his birthday too.
It was Evan's birthday.
So his birthday. It was Evan's birthday that night.
Happy freaking birthday! Have a nap.
Yeah,
Are
he scored
you
a birthday.
serious?
He scored a birthday goal, but he won't
No.
remember it.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
Yeah. He, it was quite notable for a lot of things. He actually led the team in ice time too.
Did he?
His team, the forwards. Yeah, I just double checked that. So he's a young player. He's normally like a third, fourth liner. He had a great game. Every time I saw him on the ice, he was causing trouble for the Jets D. And he's not a big guy, right? But he's similar
really
to
not a big guy. No.
It's similar to the role that Brandon Tanev used to play on the Jets, right? Very speedy, very heady player, great on the forecheck and stone hands, right? But he's
Jets
the kind of
fans know
guy
him
that
well,
your teammates. Yeah, but he's the guy that your teammates love, right? Because they see the all-out hustle, the all-out effort, and he's willing to do the dirty jobs, right? That a lot of players don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But wow, I don't really know what to think about the hit. Like afterwards, I tried to avoid social media because I knew it was just going to blow up. But I did look at a few, and there's some arguments saying that, you know what, that was not even a penalty. That was a clean hit. We've seen worse before. But and even this morning, Elliot Friedman, who is probably one of the best sports reporters out there, I find.
He gets in there. I
love his 31 thoughts.
He
I
deep.
agree with you, Zoner.
Yeah, and he wrote a short article about today saying that he's having trouble finding precedents for something like this. Partly just because, number one, you're dealing with a superstar like Scheifele, who has no history of this. In fact, I looked it up this morning. He only has one fight to his name in the NHL.
And I bet it wasn't his choice.
And, no, that one, I watched the video. It was a similar situation to this, where he kind of lost control. Right? He was really upset. Like earlier in the third period, he was really upset with Sherratt, right, who took him down, and he got a roughing penalty because of it. Scheifele, that is, not Sherratt.
And last night when you and I were talking, we called that the Perry effect, right? Where because Corey Perry was really under Scheifele's skin last night, being an absolute, pest. As Perry.
Just say it. Corey the Pest Perry. Oh yes, like just say it. Oh, I'm glad you said the word. Oh yes. And the thing is, though, one of my old coworkers, I mean, Mark, you know Rick Ralph, he was like one day on a show, he said, you know what? I know Corey Perry's a pest, but the dude's a winner. And for him to be in the Triple Gold Club, like, we have to acknowledge that. And the other thing, so that way, let's just stick on the topic with Scheifele. If it wasn't for you, Mark, you literally told me when Mark Scheifele told, like, the worst thing he's ever said to a ref. So I agree with the Zoner saying that, like, well, now it's like, he is not a repeat offender, clearly, because he's only had one fight. And then you just mentioned that it wasn't his choice. So, you know what? Like, I get it. Everybody's like, why does Keith not like the guy? Like, I almost got my butt kicked in the parking lot of Tab's parking lot. And I wasn't even intoxicated. And I was just like talking, and I said, trade Scheifele. And this guy was just all over me. And then I went home, and I was just like, oh my God, like, I almost got my butt kicked for saying trade Scheifele. Like, well, there's some things you can't say here, kid. And I was like, okay, I get it. So nonetheless, I just, like, I don't know. This is a very tough call. I even think for the league, because the points that the both of you just made about Mark Scheifele, forget about my dislike. They're all valid points. Like, he's not a repeat offender. He's only had one fight. And Mark, like, he's not even ever sworn at a ref. The guy doesn't swear. He refuses to swear.
Yeah. Yep. It's not a thing where he's this loose cannon. He's not this out of control human being, but he reached a frustration point. And to be fair,
and I can't argue with that yesterday for some reason. It's just like, that's where I felt that hit came from, and he let frustration get the best of him. But oh my gosh, like, Zoner, when you literally called it out, where it's just like, okay, the guy left on a stretcher. That's where the problem began.
And Simon Leung in the chat, by the way, said we're talking about it because of the outcome, not because of the hit.
And which is positive. And I feel
if Evans and Bilkowski's adding on, If Evans had his head up and had gotten up afterwards, we'd have seen some face washes, and that would have been the end of it. True. Monster hit. Listen, if he had hit him a split second earlier, he saves a goal. You know where Scheifele's head was at.
But, okay, this is where, forget about the outcome, though. I think this is why the kid's head was down, because, honestly, the Jets knew they were going to lose. I feel that that's where
they were only down 1 goal at that point.
Yeah,
right?
At that point, they had made it a 1-goal game, and there was a minute left. They had a lot of time. They had a time, right? That was the Jets' perfect scenario.
They're definitely in desperation
mode. So where I was
mode.
going with that, and I'm sorry, boys. Where I was going with that part, I just don't think that he was expecting that at all. That's why he's like, all right, you know what? Like, let me put some insurance here. And I just feel that, like, maybe Scheifele kind of took advantage of that vulnerability, and I think that doesn't sit well with me. Forget about the outcome of it. I was just like, man, like I totally, now that you guys explained it, a minute is a long time in a hockey game because it doesn't take very long for a goal to happen. You can win a faceoff, and the next thing you know, you're up the ice, and then boom, like somebody puts it in, or you get a rebound. I totally understand there was enough time. The fact that the both of you said that, I don't know. I don't like to put my heart into things at all, but like, I feel like my heart goes out to this guy. Like, he's just like, he wasn't expecting, and then boom, look what he got the worst possible outcome of something he didn't expect. And I just like, I don't know, and the fact that he's not a repeat offender, guys, I just like, I think the league is going to be in a very tough position to make the hard decision on the fact that it may have been a hockey hit, but I think the outcome of it is what's going to jeopardize, I think, everybody's decision and everybody's, sort of, I don't, what's the word I'm looking for? Like happiness with the decision, whatever it may be, or understanding. Let's put that right. What do you guys think?
Well, okay. So the thing is, he wasn't called for a hit to the head.
Okay.
It wasn't a hit to the head penalty. It was a charging penalty. And I think the call was right. I think 5 minutes was a reactionary decision. I think the 5 minutes came because of the outcome, not because of the action. And that was, I think, the point that was made in the chat there. So what I think sort of happens here is you got a guy that's frustrated because of something else happening. He's been frustrated all game. They're finally in a place where they're 1 goal down. You got a leader in Scheifele why is Scheifele the first guy back? Right? He's not a defenseman. Why is he the first? He's hustling. He's trying to show his team. This is he often puts the team on his shoulder. You got a play that's happening at full speed. I see in the chat there somebody's asking what exactly does distance traveled imply, because that's one of the rules for charge. One of the criteria for charging is based on distance traveled. And to answer your question, when I was refereeing back in the day, it was if you have more than 2 full strides specifically to hit somebody, and or you leave your feet, if you jump to make your hit, that's charging. So that, to answer that question, but you got to think in Scheifele's head, we're down 1 goal. This game is not out of reach. This guy is coming around the net and realizing, it's not an icing call. Evans beats the icing call, gets the puck, scooping around the net. Scheifele, there's this window that's this big for him to hit him. And what I think hurt Scheifele the most was not him skating fast. If you watch the replay and you watch Scheifele, there's 2 seconds in in his own zone, the defensive zone, where he looks at what's happening and he decides to coast for a second to see what's going on. Instead, had he kept skating, he would have hit Evans before he had the opportunity to score. So watch that replay back. But I'm just saying, in Scheifele's head, he thought he could get there, knock this guy on his arse, and there we go. He's a hero, right? And now he got there a split second late. They scored the goal anyway, and now he's a villain. So, talk about hockey being a game of inches. It's also a game of microseconds. And I think that was sort of what happened to Scheifele there.
God.
So
hockey is just so fast. I even had in one of the games, because I know nothing about the game other than just how to skate and score goals and try to play defense with the best backward skating that I can. Yeah, they literally was one guy. We were in the
Don't forget the
locker
tape
room, and
job.
he's like, "Oh, sorry, Zoner. What did you say?"
I said, don't forget the tape job too. Best tape
Oh
job
my
in the
goodness,
NHL.
my tape jars. Well, I haven't taken those public. I've only taken the pink and green one public, but the black and green one I haven't taken public because we haven't played since. So, anyways, he said, "Hey Keith, I just want to let you know if this was real hockey, I would have already killed you." And I was like, "Oh no." Oh no! I was like, oh no. Then I met this one guy through the job that I had with Rick Ralph. We had one of our callers who found us on location, and he came and he introduced himself. And I kept his notes he gave me for hockey. And he said the best thing was keep your stick on the ice, keep your head down, but keep your eyes up. And I was like, whoa, Ralph. Well, that's the best I've ever heard. Like, keep your head down, put your eyes up, and maybe that's probably what happened. Evan should have kept his eyes up, but I don't know. Boys, I don't know. I'm not. It's like I said. If I owned all the teams, when they make me upset with their trades and moves, it's not my money. And whatever Bettman and the safety board does, it's not my decision at the end of the day, right? And that's why I'm just like, I know everybody's like, why is this guy so anti Scheifele? And I was just like, well, I just don't think he's very good.
Well, listen,
we'll fix that later.
Yeah. It's okay. McKnight's been broken forever. We'll get him eventually. But
McKnight's been broken forever. I love it.
But anyway, going to the chat real quick because it's almost off my screen. I do want to point out Simon Young in the chat said he was skating back to try and prevent a goal. It didn't work out, but that's what he was doing. True. I agree wholeheartedly. Sounds like he didn't charge Evans. James Robinson says sounds like he didn't charge Evans. Then, based on my definition, yes, he did. He had once he actually decided to go for it, he had 3 or 4 solid strides. But that was that coasting at the beginning that put him behind the 8 ball where he had to rush. Right, that was the difference. Right, had he not stopped his feet from moving the entire way back. If he just booted her, he'd have got there in time. But it was the coasting that slowed him down. And then once he realized what was happening, then he had 4 really good strides to get to that hit. So charging penalty, I have no problem with. Again, 5 minutes was because of the outcome, the injury involved. 100%.
Okay.
That was the theatrical nature of his. Yeah. This guy flipped over. He got hit so hard. So
before I forget, and I'm sorry to jump in here like that, but when I watched the slow motion replay that Sportsnet was showing, to me, it seemed, and again, like I said, I don't know nothing about this game. I literally just started playing and I'm learning about the playoffs within the last 4 or 5 years. To me, it really seemed that when Scheifele wanted to finish the check, his arm was kind of, and I use this word very lightly because like I said, I don't really know how it works, but he kind of deliberately raised his arm. And that is where I'm like, ooh, well, like.
But that was after contact. When you hit someone.
That's what I'm saying.
When you hit someone and then you push off, so because you get the extra, he didn't hit him with the elbow. He hit him with the shoulder.
Okay.
Right? If he's not.
I'm trying to understand. That's all, right?
If he's not 4 strides deep, this is a clean hit.
Wow. And I'm just really blown away. Like, I'm not going to go put up a sign outside, say, oh, suspend Scheifele. But you know what? It's just oh man, I'm glad you're explaining that to me because it's I use the word he was wanting to finish his check. And when he finished the check, I just kind of felt that that kind of happened. But I thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, I don't think it's the mechanics of the hit itself. The hit looked totally clean to me. It's just the vulnerability of the recipient.
Exactly. He was
definitely stretched way out. And also the fact that the charging part, but even the charging part I'm struggling a bit with because, in fact, you could say he had 200 feet, right? That was his windup. This is not like a regular game situation, right? He's actually trying to prevent this empty net goal, which is why the 200 feet stride, wind up to get there.
Which also makes me confused about, because we've talked to all that whole slump, how Scheifele just stopped skating. And
he did, right?
Right. But last night he was skating hard. And then for some reason, he just took a couple of strides off and was coasting to watch what was happening. I don't know why you're doing that at the level of NHL. There's a guy and a puck from the other team, there's a guy in your end with the puck and an empty net. How do you coast? How is that a thing? Watch the replay back again. I promise you. Go ahead. There's on it.
Please.
Right. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I have to leave at 11. Or no, what time is it there? 12 your time.
Okay, sure.
So before I go, I do want to switch gears to what this means to the Jets in the next game, because they're going to be out 2 centers, right?
Yeah.
Stastny's out, and we're assuming that Scheifele's out too.
Yeah, I would like to see a no. I would like to see a no suspension. I would like to see it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Let me ask you boys this question. I know Zoner has to leave. That's why I had to jump in here. And this is all because I'm just trying to understand, and I just love how playoff hockey works. Is there a bounty on Mark Scheifele's head now, regardless of what happens from the league?
I think if he does not get suspended, there is a bounty.
Okay, so he will have an answer to this.
And I think Paul Maurice had a really sly, smart remark when they asked him after the game, and in that he's saying, "Well, you'd be stupid to say anything that makes you look like you're premeditating doing this." And this is in response to Joel Edmondson's comment saying, "We're going to make Scheifele's life miserable."
Okay.
So I think Maurice basically took a highlighter and put that right over what Edmondson just said.
Wow.
So that whatever Edmondson does now for the rest of the series, if he does anything, Edmondson's going to get suspended, right? Because Maurice just basically showing a spotlight on that. So Maurice is very sly, very smart.
He's a very cerebral coach.
He is.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity he came as a guest at our radio show, and that like 8 minutes that I got a chance just to sit next to him, listen to him, and shake his hand. I'm telling you that right now. He's a strong man.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing, and that's why it's like coaching is not a problem in Winnipeg, and I would be very sad to see Paul Maurice, like, if his job was ever in question in Winnipeg, like, that's just not, like, somebody must be doing some things that makes their mind wander.
Yeah, it was really odd. Like, the whole situation was really odd.
He's an old school coach, and he knows the game, he knows the league, and he's just... I'm a huge fan of head coach Paul Maurice. Like, when they fired Claude Noel, I was very sad, of course, because, he came in from the Moose, and I was just, even though I wasn't into hockey, he was a city name. You knew who he was. And then for him to be given the job as their first head coach, and then to see him go, and now he's a scout with the New Jersey Devils, good for him that he was able to stay in the league, stay in, that position. When they brought in Paul Maurice, I'm sure the entire city was just like, oh, wow, like, this is okay. This is okay.
Yeah. Well, and in the chat, James Robinson says, quote, "You don't want to circle any names on the board," is what James Robinson thinks Pomo said earlier in the season. So just highlighting what you just said, Zoner. But okay, that's enough about that. There is a hearing today. We will hear back. We're sure we know what's going on there. It'll happen. One quick thing before Zoner leaves us again. Was Hellebuyck snubbed for the Vezina? He was not nominated for a Vezina. Was he snubbed?
That 8-game losing streak is not why. Is why.
Yeah?
That's exactly why. I don't blame them at all. He didn't play up to the way that he did last year. And I think he's over that because he's just trying to make up for everything and just try to, focus on the playoffs here because that's what you play to get. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts. He's obviously, shown that, he's okay with it. And I don't know. I think he'll respond very strongly from this. And personally, you can have all these accolades and everything, but at the end of the day, no matter what level you play at, I'm sure, even myself, in our beer league, they give you hats when you win. That is, the coolest thing ever. If I could get a hat and then, run around the rink with nobody in it, who, even without COVID or not, it's pretty cool. You play to win that. So I think he's just more focused on the big prize. No disrespect from individual achievements, but I feel that Paul Maurice is one of those head coaches that he takes that away from you. He's there's a bigger picture here. Forget about you. wouldn't you rather be like doing that one lap with the Lord Stanley instead of something? So, if you want to look at it that deep, I just think Connor Hellebuyck may have been like snubbed is one thing, right? Because but that 8-game losing streak, like, let's be real, like that put the Jets in a very vulnerable position where even like people were like, well, what am I supposed to think about this team? Because like Mark Scheifele, like almost like stopped skating. You were almost like, what's wrong with this guy? Like you're playing like how I wish you played to get traded. But it's like, what are you doing? Like, did you hear me?
It sounds like you are getting. It sounds like you're putting a lot of the blame for those losses on Hellebuyck. I disagree.
No. I don't mean that. But the 8-game losing streak, like it puts him in question too, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody's going to blame the goaltender. I'm not here blaming the goaltender for that 8-game losing streak. But at the end of the day, everybody's going to boil it down. Oh, well, well, the goalie this, the goalie that. Well, it's not always the goalie's fault. I agree with you on that. And I resent that in a polite way because I'm not putting all the blame on him. But at the end of the day, goaltending gets a lot of blame.
Okay, but I want to point out, he faced the most shots in the NHL over the course of the season.
That's what I mean. So it's a total snub. It's a total snub. Don't get me wrong.
All right. So
what I'm saying,
we gotta give Zoner his time before he has to run.
Sorry, Zoner. Sorry.
I agree with you that it was the 7-game losing streak, the 9 out of 10 or whatever they lost that probably did him in. If they held the vote back in March, he'd probably be one of the top 3.
Right.
I was looking at the list of people who were snubbed. Actually, this was a very good year for goaltending. There was a lot of players with good seasons who did not make it.
Simon Leung adds in the chat, Helly wasn't snubbed. They could only shortlist 3. All those 3 are deserving, is what he said. So just to highlight your point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm okay with him being snubbed. In fact, as a Jets fan, I'm probably happier that he was snubbed because Hellebuyck's the kind of player who plays with a chip on his shoulder, and we just made that chip bigger, right? Well, in fact, maybe we should keep reminding him that he wasn't nominated, and maybe game 2 he'll be really fired up. Who knows?
Hey, Helly, remember that time you didn't win the Vezina? Anyway.
Yeah. I thought game 1 he played well, but there was a couple plays where he lost sight of the rebound, and that's not a normal Hellebuyck thing, right? He's usually totally in control of where the puck's going after it hits him.
Right. Okay. Zoner, thank you so much for being with us. We're going to talk about like a couple more things. If you have time, we're going to talk about just the injury situation with the Jets, and then we're out of here. So if you want to hang around, you're more than welcome. If you got to go, I totally get it.
Yeah, I'll be ducking out in 2 minutes, but you guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. I'm sorry I don't know.
It's okay.
You boys got me going this morning. I love it.
I'm still waiting for the show that you show us your tape job.
No.
Tape job. I didn't show you. You want to wait?
No.
Want to wait 1 second?
No. We'll save it for next.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
All right.
I will shut off your camera.
I'll calm my excitement, boys.
I will shut off your camera. That is a travesty.
Mark says the key word. He says it's a travesty.
Anyway, injuries. DeMello left the game early. And I think earlier in the chat, Kerry pointed out any other game, DeMello would have been he would have been the only thing we talked about, him leaving early in the game. But because there was obviously quite a few other situations happening that we needed to talk about, that didn't become a thing. Do we know if he's going to be back or not? Because I didn't see anything about it.
I didn't see anything either, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what's happening with that because I watched the highlights and so on, and I saw that, and I was like, oh yeah, there hasn't been any news. So, I don't mean to quote the NFL based on Madden, the video games, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the PUP, physically unplayable list. So we'll see what happens with that. I was a little concerned, and I don't know. It was let's just put it this way. I'm very surprised the Jets lost.
I think a lot of people are.
I'm very surprised they lost. Like, forget about all of my blah 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 blah, like my Mark Scheifele, blah, all that. I'm just very surprised they lost. I literally went home yesterday to my mom's to pick up a few things. And I saw some people in the neighborhood, you know, and, you know, they were all doing their walking and this. And, you know, for people that I used to see when I lived there, and I was like, oh, are we going to win tonight? Didn't even say hello. And they're like, yes, we are. And they, you know, throwing their hands up and everything. And, you know, when you beat the best team, one of the best teams in the league, like, your confidence has to be riding high. And the one thing I wanted to point out, and I kind of wish Jonah was here, Mark, the 3 nominations for the Ted Lindsay Award were all first-round playoff exits.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I can't believe that. And I was just like, here we are. Like,
well, remember,
it's amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
Those awards are for the regular season, right? They're for regular season play. They're not supposed to include playoff.
The playoffs.
Sort of.
Yeah, and that's respectfully so.
Yeah.
And because there'll be an award for somebody who's like the playoffs MVP. And, like, I don't even know all the list of the NHL awards, but am I mistaken for that?
No, there's playoff MVP. There's regular season MVP. There's, you know, regular season goal scorer, playoff goal scorer. There's all those different awards. But how about Nathan MacKinnon? 8 goals in his first 5 games.
I don't even know what to say, because the other day, I love where you're going with this, because I looked this up because I was like, who's leading the NHL right now in playoff stats? And instead of typing in Nathan MacKinnon, I just gave myself the benefit of the doubt that it might be someone else. Instead of typing Nathan MacKinnon in the Google search bar, I typed in NHL playoff points leaders, and it was Nathan MacKinnon. Yeah. This young man, I'm telling you, like, I can't believe you got to see him play in juniors, because he was have unreal. Oh my gosh. And Mark, I don't even know. I'm
listen,
it's crazy. But I know we're running out of time, and we'll close the show up, but I want everybody to just start paying a little bit more attention to head coach Barry Trotz, because he got Ovechkin his first Lord Stanley, right? Now the Capitals were a first-round playoff exit with the experience of Zdeno Chara. Barry Trotz, let me tell you this right now. Do you know Bill Parcells from the NFL?
Oh, yeah.
He only became the GOAT to me because, like, he only became the GOAT when I heard Tony Soprano say Bill Parcells' name on the show. I was like, oh my God, if Tony Soprano drops your name, you're the man. So Bill Parcells and Barry Trotz, I'm telling you, Barry Trotz, when I found out, because I was managing the University of Manitoba men's basketball team for about 3 years, and my first year I walked through the hockey rink, and I was like, wait, you're telling me the head coach of the Nashville Predators, before he became the head coach of the Nashville Predators, coached U of M? And ever since that moment, I went and I gave Barry Trotz a Google, and my life hasn't been the same since.
All right.
If there's anybody that I want to win a Lord Stanley, it's Barry Trotz.
Okay, fair enough. I don't share that. I'm not from Manitoba, so my connection to Barry Trotz isn't quite as strong. But I do want to point out real quick, Stastny was out of the game last night. Do we know if he's going to be back? What's the deal with him?
Man, I don't know. And the thing is that I love about Stastny, that guy just literally reeks. And I use that word positively of, like, NHL. Like, he is a hockey player, hey?
Yeah, I mean, he's
like,
got the teeth for it, for sure.
He lost his teeth and everything, right? But Paul Stastny, he even quotes his dad in his Wikipedia, in all his interviews. Oh, my dad said this, my dad said that. And I was like, this guy is just, he's a hockey, like, forget about it. Like, he is, like, you might as well name him Paul, like, sorry, like, after his dad, Junior.
Yeah. Okay, we don't have time to get into all the other things we wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about the NHL draft lottery.
You need to call. Sorry, what about the draft lottery? Seattle will pick second. Yeah, Buffalo will pick first. Now, let me ask you a question. I'm a little bit confused on this because Seattle will pick second in the actual NHL entry draft. Does that mean there won't be an expansion draft for them as a new team?
There will be an expansion draft, and then they will pick second. But then we also want to put okay.
Well, I gotta stop. Is there? Do you? And we talked about this before, and you said we'll pick this up another day. But based on your knowledge and experience with the National Hockey League, will the expansion draft happen before the draft?
I would think it would have to, because otherwise they don't have a team. I'm not 100% sure on how it all works, but I know that they're going to have a list of players that are theirs, and then they're going to draft to add to that. But so DeMello, will he be back? I don't know. Stastny, I don't know what the deal is there, but that's a centerman. Lowry was hurt and came back in the game. Hopefully he's okay to go in game 2. Game 2 happens tomorrow night, 6:30 Central. For the rest of today, head over, support local sports shows. Go watch at 1 o'clock, I think, Sports Talk Daily with Hustler and Remus is on.
Remus is a god.
Okay, so go check those guys out on, I think it's just Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube. They go live at 1 o'clock. So go check them out today.
And listen to Hustler, because I know he just quit smoking. And he is probably 2 years without a cigarette. So Hustler, I'm sending a shout out to you. I'm supporting you on that conquest, my friend. Miss
not
you.
Not an easy feat, for sure.
It is not easy. So please give those guys a like, give them a follow. They're worth a Google. They're doing a great job. They were from 1290 before they shut down, because even Mike McIntyre from the Free Press literally headlined his article, 1290 shuts down, blindsiding staff. Talk about a blindside. Anyways,
yeah.
Mark, close it up.
All right, we're getting out of here. We're getting out of here. So we'll see you next time, which will be the game is tomorrow night, Friday, June 4th. So we'll be back here Saturday morning at 11 a.m., which will be right after the my goodness, the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. So check out their app. They have the post-game show and then the show in the morning. I think they start at 9:30. So
those guys do a great job.
So head over.
For years, they've been doing such a good job.
Head over to the Illegal Curve face or YouTube page. They'll be live Saturday morning starting at 9:30, and then we'll be here at 11 a.m. on our channel. So be back here for the LZ Sports Show. We will see you next time. Thank you, everybody that was in the chat and watching. We greatly appreciate you guys. You are the MVPs. We're out of here. Bye, guys. See you next time.